really glad you're here tonight. This hour is different from the rest of the day. It doesn't ask you to decide anything. It doesn't ask you to perform or explain or keep up. It simply invites you to lie still and let your thoughts move at their own pace. As the years pass, nighttime becomes a kind of companion, a place where the mind is free to wander without interruption, where memories return, not urgently, but patiently, where understanding settles in quietly, without needing words. Later in life, the mind doesn't race the way it once did. It reflects, it revisits, it connects dots that once seemed unrelated. And it does this most honestly when the lights are off and the world has gone silent. This space is for those thoughts, the ones that don't surface during the day, the ones that arrive only when you're alone with yourself, resting, remembering, and gently making sense of a long, lived-in life. So take a slow breath, let your body soften into the bed, and allow this night to meet you where you are. And now, before we begin, if this kind of honest, gentle reflection speaks to you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. And down in the comments, tell me where you're listening from and what time it is where you are right now. There's something comforting about knowing we're all here together, scattered across time zones, but united in these late hours when the world finally grows still. So settle in, adjust your pillows, find a comfortable position, and know that for the next hour, you're not alone in whatever wisdom you're carrying, whatever understanding you've earned, whatever truths rise to the surface when the lights go out. Let's begin. You're lying in bed right now, and the quiet is different than it used to be. Not empty, not lonely necessarily, just different. The silence has texture now. Wait, it's filled with things that aren't here anymore. Things you didn't know you'd miss until they were gone. Things that seemed ordinary at the time but now glow in memory like they were always precious. You just didn't know it yet. Tonight, as you settle into this familiar darkness, the missing begins. It always does. The night has a way of bringing forward what the day keeps at bay. All the small, beautiful, ordinary things that made up your life when you were younger, when the world felt fuller, when there were more voices in the rooms, more sounds in the house, more reasons to wake up early and stay up late. You miss the sounds. God, you miss the sounds. You miss the sound of your children's feet on the floor in the morning, the particular rhythm of them. You could tell which child it was just by the footsteps, the heavy, deliberate walk of one, the light, quick patter of another, the shuffling, half-asleep drag of the teenager who didn't want to be awake yet. You knew these sounds the way you knew your own heartbeat, automatic, constant, part of the soundtrack of your life. Those feet don't walk across your floors anymore. Your children have their own floors now, their own houses, their own morning routines in spaces you've visited but don't live in. Their footsteps echo in other rooms, wake other people, mark the passage of other days, and your mornings are quiet. So quiet, you can hear the house settling, the refrigerator humming, your own breathing, the absence where those footsteps used to be. You remember weekend mornings when the house was chaos, when everyone was home and everyone needed something and the kitchen was full of bodies and voices and demands. Cereal boxes open on the counter, milk left out, crumbs on every surface. Someone asking where their shoes were, someone else complaining about what their sibling did, the dog barking to go out, the phone ringing, the television on, the radio playing, everything happening at once in a beautiful, exhausting symphony of family life. You were tired then. You wanted quiet. You fantasized about mornings alone with your coffee, peaceful mornings, slow mornings, mornings where you could hear yourself think, and now you have them every morning, all the quiet you ever wanted. And some nights, lying here in the dark, you'd give anything to have that chaos back, just for one morning, just to hear those feet on the floor again, just to have someone ask you where their shoes are. You miss the noise of a full house, the particular sound of your home when it was truly lived in, when every room had a purpose and a person, when the bathroom was always occupied, when you had to schedule shower times, when there was a waiting list for the television, when you couldn't make a phone call without someone picking up the extension in another room, when privacy was a luxury and alone time was something you had to fight for. The house sounds different now, emptier. Your footsteps echo in ways they didn't before. Rooms stay exactly as you leave them. No one moves your things. No one leaves their things everywhere. No one takes the last of the milk without telling you. No one forgets to turn off the lights. The house is orderly, clean, exactly how you always said you wanted it. And it feels wrong, like something vital has been removed, like you're living in a museum of your own life instead of in life itself. You miss the mess. You never thought you would, but you do. You miss tripping over shoes in the hallway. You miss the pile of backpacks by the door. You miss the jackets that never made it to the closet. You miss the bathroom cluttered with products you didn't recognize. You miss the refrigerator covered in papers and schedules and drawings and reminders. You miss having to move someone's stuff to sit down. You miss the creative chaos of a family in motion. Now everything has a place. Everything stays in its place. You could leave for a week and come home to find the house exactly as you left it. This should feel like peace, like accomplishment, like the reward for all those years of managing chaos. Instead, it feels like evidence, proof that the fullest part of your life is over, that the main event has ended, and what remains is the quiet after. You miss being needed in that immediate physical way. You miss someone calling for you from another room. You miss your name being said 100 times a day. Mom, Dad, can you help me? Can you drive me? Can you can you make me? Can you explain? Can you come here? Can you? It was relentless. It was exhausting. You sometimes hid in the bathroom just to have 2 minutes when no one was asking you for something. And now no one asks. No one needs you to find anything or fix anything or drive anywhere or explain anything. You're not the first person anyone calls anymore. You're not the solution to immediate problems. You're not central to the daily functioning of other people's lives. Your children are grown. They have their own people to call now. Partners, friends, co-workers, people who are geographically closer and more immediately relevant. You're still important to them. You know this, but you're not necessary in the way you once were. not woven into the fabric of their daily existence, not the person they think of first. And this is how it should be. This is success. You raise them to not need you. But God, you miss being needed. You miss the bedtime routines, the particular ritual of tucking children in, reading the same books over and over until you had them memorized, answering the endless questions that surfaced the moment lights went out, getting them water, checking for monsters, leaving the door open just the right amount, the hallway light on, the night light positioned correctly, all the small, specific requirements each child had for feeling safe enough to sleep. You were so tired during those years. Bedtime felt like a marathon. One more thing, one more request, one more delay, one more reason they couldn't possibly sleep yet. You counted the minutes until you could close their door and finally have time to yourself. Finally be done with the demands of the day. And now bedtime is immediate, solitary. No rituals required. No one needs tucking in. No one needs one more story or one more glass of water or one more hug. You can go to bed whenever you want. No one depends on you to make them feel safe first. This is freedom, and it feels like loss. You miss your parents. Even now, after all these years, you miss them. You miss being able to call them. You miss their voices. You miss the particular way they said your name. You miss telling them things. You miss asking their advice. You miss the feeling of still being someone's child, even though you were an adult with children of your own. You miss knowing they were there, in the world, thinking about you, caring how you were. You remember the last time you spoke to them, the last conversation, the last time you heard their voice. You didn't know it was the last. You treated it like any other call, any other visit, any other goodbye. If you'd known, you would have paid more attention. You would have listened differently. You would have said different things, important things, true things, things you assumed you'd have time to say later. But you didn't know. So you said the ordinary things, the comfortable things, the things you always said. And then they were gone. And those ordinary things became the last things. And now you replay them endlessly, trying to find meaning you didn't put there at the time. You miss being able to ask them questions. Questions about your childhood, about family history, about decisions they made, about things you were too young to understand when they happened. You have questions now that will never be answered. Gaps in your own story that only they could fill. And they took those answers with them. Your past is less complete because they're not here to remember it with you. You miss the holidays when everyone was alive, when the table was full, when you had to add extensions and borrow chairs from neighbors, when there were multiple generations present, when children played with cousins, when the adults told the same stories they told every year and laughed at the same jokes and fell into the same arguments about things that didn't matter, when the house was loud with life, with family, with the messy, complicated, beautiful reality of people who share blood and history, trying to love each other despite their differences. Now the holidays are smaller, quieter. Some of the chairs are empty. Some of the voices are missing. Some of the stories don't get told because the person who told them best is gone. You tried to maintain the traditions. You tried to create the same feeling, but you can't because the feeling wasn't about the food or the decorations or the activities. It was about the people. And some of the people aren't here anymore. The holidays are gentle now, manageable, but they're not the same. They're shadows of what they were. Echoes of celebrations that were fuller and louder and more chaotic and more alive. You miss the friends you've lost, not just to death, though some of those too, but to distance, to drift, to the natural attrition that happens over decades. People you were close to once, people who knew you when you were young, people who witnessed your life during the years that shaped you most. Those friendships faded for 1,000 small reasons. Someone moved, someone changed, life got busy, time passed, and suddenly you realized it had been years since you spoke. Decades since you saw each other. And now you're strangers who used to know each other, who used to matter to each other, who used to be part of each other's daily lives. You have new friends now, good friends, but they don't know the younger you. They don't remember the person you were at 25 or 35 or 45. They only know who you are now, and that's fine. It's good even. But sometimes you miss being known by people who witnessed your entire journey, who remember your mistakes and your triumphs and your evolution, who could remind you of who you used to be when you've forgotten. You miss your younger body. You miss moving without thinking about it. You miss getting up from a chair without strategizing. You miss walking without pain. You miss sleeping through the night. You miss having energy that lasted all day. You miss not having to pace yourself. You miss spontaneity. You miss being able to decide to do something physical and just do it without considering whether your body could handle it or how long you'd pay for it afterward. You remember when your body was a tool that obeyed you, when you could ask things of it and it would deliver, when you could run and dance and lift and bend and reach without limitation, when you trusted it completely, when you didn't have to think about it at all because it just worked, automatically, reliably, constantly. Your body was the vehicle for your life, and it went wherever you pointed it. Now your body is a challenge, a puzzle, a source of constant negotiation. You have to think about everything, plan everything, accommodate limitations you never imagined you'd have. Simple things are complicated now. Getting dressed requires strategy. Grocery shopping requires rest breaks. Activities you used to do without thought now require preparation and recovery. Your body has become unreliable, unpredictable, something you have to manage, rather than something that manages itself. You miss the assumption of time. When you were younger, time felt infinite. You had decades ahead of you, decades to pursue dreams, to change careers, to travel, to learn new things, to become different people, to fix mistakes, to try again. Time was a resource you spent freely because there always seemed to be more of it, more tomorrows, more next years, more eventually. Now time feels finite, precious, urgent. You're aware of the mathematics. You know roughly how much time you might have left. And it's not infinite. It's limited, countable. You can't say someday anymore because someday might not come. You can't defer things indefinitely. Can't wait for the right time or the right circumstances or the right feeling. Because waiting uses up the time you have left, and there's not enough left to waste. this awareness changes everything, makes everything more intense, more meaningful, more bittersweet. You notice things differently now. Pay attention differently. Try to be present differently. Because you know this moment is not guaranteed to repeat. This sunset, this conversation, this ordinary Tuesday, any of it could be the last one. So you try to notice, try to appreciate, try to be here fully while you still are here. You miss certainty. When you were younger, you were sure about things, sure about what was right and what was wrong, sure about what you believed, sure about how the world worked, sure about your own judgments and opinions and conclusions. Certainty felt like strength, like having figured things out, like being an adult who understood. Now you're sure about very little. Life has complicated everything you thought you knew. Every belief has been challenged. Every certainty has been questioned. Every opinion has been nuanced into something more complex and less definite. You've seen too much, experienced too much, learned too much to be certain anymore. And this is wisdom. You know it's wisdom, but sometimes you miss the simplicity of being sure, the confidence of knowing exactly where you stood, the clarity of black and white before you learned that most of life is grey. You miss the future you imagined. When you were young, you had such clear pictures of how your life would unfold, what you'd accomplish, where you'd live, who you'd become, what your life would look like at this age. You had plans, expectations, dreams. Some of them came true. Many of them didn't. Not because you failed, but because life went differently than you imagined. Because reality was more complicated than your fantasies. Because you changed in ways you couldn't predict. Because circumstances intervened. Because life happens while you're making other plans. The future you're living now isn't the future you imagined. It's not worse, necessarily. In some ways, it's better. In some ways, it's simply different. But it's not what you pictured. And there's grief in that. Grief for the life you didn't live, the person you didn't become, the dreams that didn't manifest. This grief coexists with gratitude for the life you did live, for the person you did become, for the unexpected joys that replace the expected ones. Both are true. Both are real. Both live in you simultaneously. You miss feeling young, not just being young, but feeling young. There was a time when you felt like you had forever, when your body felt strong and unlimited, when you felt attractive and vital and relevant, when you looked in the mirror and recognized yourself, when you felt connected to the current moment in culture, when you understood the music and the language and the technology, when you felt like you were part of what was happening rather than watching it from the outside. Now you feel old. Your body reminds you constantly. Your reflection surprises you. You don't recognize the person in the mirror as you. That person is older than you feel inside. That person looks like your parents looked, like your grandparents looked. That person is old, and you're not old. Not inside. Inside, you're still you, still the same person you've always been. But the outside doesn't match the inside anymore. and the world treats you like the outside, like the old person, not like the you that still lives inside. You miss being seen, really seen. When you were younger, people looked at you, noticed you, responded to you. You had a kind of social visibility that felt normal at the time, but was actually a privilege you didn't recognize. People made eye contact, included you in conversations, assumed you were relevant, treated you like someone who mattered in the immediate present moment. Now you're increasingly invisible. People's eyes slide past you. Conversations happen around you. Younger people make assumptions about what you can or can't understand, what you do or don't know, who you are or aren't. They see your age before they see you. They see old before they see person. And you want to tell them that you're still here, still fully present, still engaged, still interesting, still worthy of being seen as a complete human being. But you can't make people see you if they've decided you're invisible. You miss being touched. If you live alone, if you're widowed or divorced or never partnered, you miss physical touch. The casual, constant, unconscious touch that happens when you share your life with someone. The hand on your back when they walk past. The kiss hello and goodbye. The hug for no reason. The sitting close on the couch. The reaching for each other in sleep. The physical reassurance that you're not alone in your body. That someone else knows you're a physical being who exists in space. Without regular touch, you start to forget your own physical presence. Start to feel ghostly, untethered, like you're floating through space without anchor. Touch grounds you, reminds you that you're real, that you're here, that you matter enough to be reached for. Without it, you can go days without anyone making physical contact with you. And this absence changes you, makes you hungry for connection in ways that feel desperate, makes a handshake or a brief hug from an acquaintance feel like water in the desert. You miss sex. If you're honest with yourself, you miss it. Not just the physical act, though that too, but the intimacy, the vulnerability, the connection, the feeling of being desired, of being wanted, of your body being a source of pleasure rather than just a source of limitation and pain, of feeling alive in that particular way that only sex creates, of sharing that experience with another person, of the closeness after, the tenderness, the particular kind of knowing that comes from physical intimacy. Your sexual self didn't disappear just because you got older. The desire is still there, the need for intimacy, the want, but the opportunities diminish, the possibilities narrow. If you're partnered, maybe your partner's body has changed too. Maybe sex is complicated now by health issues, or medications, or pain, or anxiety. Maybe it's less frequent or less satisfying or less possible than it used to be. If you're not partnered, finding sexual connection at this age feels nearly impossible. The world assumes you're not sexual anymore, assumes you don't want or need that kind of intimacy, and the assumption becomes a barrier. You miss being in love, the feeling of it, the early stages when everything was possibility, when you couldn't wait to see them, when every moment together felt charged with meaning, when you stayed up all night talking, when you learned each other, when everything was new and exciting and full of promise, when love felt like the answer to everything, when it made the world glow. You've been in love. Maybe you're still in love. Maybe you've been married for 40 years to someone you still care for deeply. But it's not the same as those early days. Long-term love is different, better in many ways, deeper, more real, built on genuine knowing rather than projection. But it's not exciting. It's comfortable, familiar, safe. And sometimes you miss the excitement, the uncertainty, the thrill, the feeling that love was an adventure you were on together. You miss possibility. When you were young, your life was full of open doors, potential paths, different futures you could choose. The world felt wide open. You could become anything, go anywhere, change everything. Nothing was settled. Nothing was final. Everything was still possible. And this was both terrifying and exhilarating, but mostly exhilarating. The future was a blank page you got to write on. Now most of your choices have been made. Most of the doors have closed. The paths you didn't take are no longer available. You're living the life you built through thousands of small and large decisions. And it's a good life, probably. A life you're mostly at peace with. But it's this life, this particular, specific, limited life. Not all the other lives you might have lived. And sometimes you wonder about those other versions of yourself, the ones who made different choices, who took different paths, who became different people. Those versions are gone now, lost to time and circumstance. They exist only as imagination, as what if, as roads not taken. You miss dreaming about the future, planning it, anticipating it, working toward it. When you were younger, the future was something to build, something to shape, something to move toward. You had goals, ambitions, plans, things you wanted to accomplish before you died. And the accomplishing was still decades away. There was time, there was space, there was opportunity. Now the future is short. There's not time for grand plans, not time for total reinvention, not time for becoming something completely different. The future is limited to what's possible in the time remaining. And what's possible is much smaller than it used to be. You're not planning decades anymore. You're planning years, maybe, if you're lucky. The scope has narrowed. The horizon has moved closer. The dream has become smaller and more immediate, and more about preservation than creation. You're lying here in the dark, and all these missing things surround you like ghosts. Not frightening, just present. All the things that used to be that aren't anymore. All the people who are here, who aren't now. All the versions of yourself that existed and transformed and disappeared into who you are today. The missing is heavy tonight, heavier than usual, or maybe just more visible, more acknowledged. The darkness gives you permission to feel it fully, to let it be real, to stop pretending that getting older is only about wisdom and peace and acceptance, to admit that it's also about loss, constant, accumulating, irreversible loss. But here's what's true too. Here's what sits alongside the missing. You're still here. You made it this far, through everything you miss, through everything you lost, through every transition and ending and grief. You're still here, still breathing, still feeling, still capable of missing things, which means you're still capable of loving things, still connected to your own life enough to care what's gone. This is not nothing. This is everything, actually. You miss the energy you once had, the sheer physical capacity to do things without stopping, without needing to rest, without having to consider whether you'd pay for it tomorrow. You remember days when you worked a full shift, came home and cooked dinner, helped with homework, did laundry, cleaned the kitchen, and still had energy to stay up and talk or read or watch something. You remember weekends when you tackle major projects, paint entire rooms, reorganize closets, work in the yard for hours, and then go out in the evening. Be social, be present, be engaged. Now, a single errand can exhaust you. A doctor's appointment uses up your energy for the day. You have to choose between activities because you can't do everything anymore. You have to pace yourself, rest between tasks, plan for recovery time. Your energy is a limited resource that must be carefully managed. And you resent this. You resent your body's limitations. You resent having to make these calculations. You resent the loss of that seemingly infinite energy you once took completely for granted. You miss cooking for a crowd. You miss planning meals for a family. You miss the satisfaction of preparing food that people needed and wanted and would gather around a table to eat. You miss knowing everyone's favorites. You miss the complaints about what you made and the requests for specific dishes and the negotiations about vegetables. You miss setting the table for more than one or two. You miss the conversation during dinner, the catching up, the sharing of days, the family time that happened naturally around food. Now you cook for one, maybe two, small portions, simple meals. Often you don't cook at all because what's the point of making a whole meal for just yourself? You eat standing at the counter. You eat leftovers for days. You eat things that don't require real cooking. And the kitchen, which used to be the heart of your home, feels empty, underused, a reminder of all the meals you used to make for all the people who used to need you to feed them. You miss your old neighborhood. Even if you still live in the same house, the neighborhood isn't the same. The people you knew have moved away or died. New families have moved in, families you don't know, who don't know you. The kids you watched grow up are grown and gone. The neighbors you borrowed sugar from and shared tools with and talked to over the fence are replaced by strangers who keep to themselves, who don't wave, who don't know your name. You remember when you knew everyone on your street, when kids played outside and parents watched from porches, when people walked and stopped to chat, when someone was always outside doing something and you'd end up in conversations you didn't plan, when the neighborhood felt like a community, like an extended family, like a place where you belonged and were known. Now you can go days without seeing your neighbors, weeks without speaking to anyone. The neighborhood is full of people, but it feels empty of connection. You miss your old car, the one you drove for years, the one that took your kids to school and to practice, and to friends' houses, the one that took you to work every day, the one that went on family vacations. That car knew you, knew the way you adjusted the seat and the mirrors, knew the radio stations you liked, knew the route you drove most often. It was comfortable, familiar, an extension of your daily life. You have a different car now, probably newer, more reliable, safer, better in every objective way. But it's not the same. It doesn't have the memories. It doesn't carry the history. It's just a car, a tool, a machine, not a companion that witnessed years of your life. And you feel silly missing a car. It's just an object. But it's not really about the car. It's about everything the car represents. All the places you went, all the conversations you had, all the ordinary moments of life that happened while you were driving. You miss being excited about things. You miss anticipation. You miss looking forward to something so much it was hard to sleep. You miss counting down days. You miss planning and preparing and imagining how wonderful something was going to be. You miss that feeling of butterflies in your stomach before something good. That nervousness mixed with joy. That sense that something special was about to happen. When you were younger, there was always something to look forward to. Vacations, events, milestones, celebrations, changes, new experiences. The future held things you wanted, things you were working toward, things you were excited to see unfold. And the anticipation was almost as good as the thing itself. The looking forward, the imagining, the planning. Now there's less to look forward to. Not nothing, but less. The big milestones have mostly happened. The major events have occurred. The future holds fewer surprises, fewer firsts, fewer things you haven't experienced before. And while you've learned to appreciate the present moment, while you've cultivated gratitude for what is rather than what's coming, you miss that excited anticipation, that sense that something wonderful is just ahead. You miss shopping for your children, walking through stores looking for things they needed or wanted, school supplies, clothes, toys. You miss knowing their sizes and their preferences and their current obsessions. You miss the satisfaction of finding exactly the right thing, something they love, something that would make them happy. You miss wrapping gifts, hiding them, planning the surprise, watching their faces when they opened presents. Now your children are adults, and if they need something, they buy it themselves. They don't need you to provide. They don't need you to shop for them. They're self-sufficient. This is success. This is what you worked for. But shopping feels different now. Emptier. You shop for yourself mostly. For boring things, practical things. Or you shop for grandchildren maybe. But it's different. You have to ask what they need. You don't know instinctively anymore. You're not the primary provider. You're supplementary, optional. It's not the same. You miss dancing. Not professionally, not formally, just dancing. Moving your body to music, at weddings, at parties, in your living room, with your partner, with your friends. You remember when dancing felt natural, when your body moved easily, when you didn't think about it, when the music played and you just danced, when it was fun, when it was joyful, when it was a way to celebrate and connect and express yourself. Now dancing feels risky. Your balance isn't what it was. Your joints complain. Your body doesn't move the way it used to. You're self-conscious, aware of how you look, afraid of falling, afraid of looking foolish. So you don't dance. You watch other people dance. You remember when you used to dance. And you miss it. You miss the freedom of movement, the joy of music made physical, the unself-consciousness of a body that obeyed you. You miss reading easily, Your eyes aren't what they were. You need better light, larger print, reading glasses. You lose your place more easily. You have to reread sentences. Your concentration isn't as sharp. You get tired faster. Books that you would have finished in days now take weeks. And some books you can't read at all anymore. The print is too small. The pages too many. Your eyes or your attention won't cooperate. Reading was one of your great pleasures, one of your refuges, one of the ways you traveled and learned and escaped and grew. And now it's harder, more effortful, less reliable as a source of comfort. You still read, but it's different, more challenging, less purely enjoyable. And you mourn this, the loss of easy access to something that mattered so much. You miss feeling competent with technology. There was a time when you kept up, when you learned new things, when you adapted to changes, when technology felt like a tool you could master. But somewhere along the way, it got ahead of you. It changed faster than you could learn. And now you're always behind, always confused, always needing help with things that seem simple to everyone else. Your children or grandchildren help you, patiently or impatiently depending on their temperament. They fix your phone, set up your computer, explain things you don't understand. And you feel stupid, inadequate, old. You remember when you were the one who knew things, who helped others, who was competent and capable. Now you're dependent, need assistance with basic tasks. And this reversal is humbling in ways that hurt. You miss your wedding day. If you married, you miss how young you both were, how hopeful, how certain that love was enough, how naive about what marriage actually required, how beautiful everything seemed, how special that day felt. You wore something special. You made promises. Your families gathered. Your friends celebrated. You believed absolutely in forever. Maybe you're still married to that same person. Maybe the marriage ended. Maybe they died. But either way, you miss that day. The beginning. The moment when everything was possible. When you didn't know yet what would be hard, what would hurt, what would test you. You just knew you loved each other, and that felt like everything. And it was everything in that moment. That young, hopeful, naive moment when you promised forever and meant it completely. You miss your parents' house, even though you were an adult when they died, even though you'd had your own home for decades. You still think of their house as home in a way your own house never quite is. You miss walking in without knocking. You miss the particular smell of that house, the particular sounds, the way the light came through the windows, the feel of the furniture, the contents of the refrigerator, the photographs on the walls, all of it familiar in a way that went bone deep. That house was your first home, your original home, and losing access to it felt like losing access to a part of yourself. That house is gone now, sold to strangers, changed by them, lived in by people who don't know its history, don't know what happened in those rooms, don't know that you learned to walk in that hallway, that you hid in that closet, that you sat at that counter doing homework, that you fought with your siblings in that basement, that you were loved in that house. That house holds your childhood, and it's not yours anymore. It's just a building somewhere that you drive past occasionally if you're in the area, if you can bear to look at it. You miss believing you had plenty of time to figure things out, to make things right, to heal relationships, to say important things, to do important things. When you were younger, time felt expandable. If you didn't do something today, you'd do it tomorrow. If you didn't say something this year, you'd say it next year. If a relationship was strained, you'd fix it eventually. There was always eventually, always later, always more time. Now you know better. Now you understand that time runs out, that eventually never comes, that later becomes never, that relationships end with things unsaid, that people die before you repair what was broken, that you run out of chances to make things right, and you carry regrets, things you didn't say, things you didn't do, apologies you didn't make, forgiveness you didn't offer, love you didn't express, all because you thought you had more time. You miss your grandparents. If you were lucky enough to know them, you miss their particular brand of love, the unconditional acceptance they offered, the way they delighted in you just for existing, the special treatment, the spoiling, the feeling of being treasured without having to earn it. They loved you differently than your parents did, with less responsibility, more pure enjoyment. They got to be the fun ones, the ones who said yes, the ones who had time and patience and treats. You remember their house, their yard, the things they kept just for you, the activities you did together, the stories they told, the way they smelled, the sound of their voices. These memories are precious now, sacred, because they're all you have left. Your grandparents are gone, have been gone for years probably, and with them went a particular kind of love you'll never experience again, a particular kind of being known and cherished that existed only in that relationship. You miss being able to eat anything, when your digestive system worked without thought, when you could eat whatever you wanted, whenever you wanted, without consequence, when you didn't have to avoid certain foods, when you didn't need antacids, when you could enjoy a big meal without suffering for it later, when food was purely pleasure rather than something that required careful management. Now you have restrictions, foods that don't agree with you, times you can't eat, portions you have to limit, medications you take to make eating possible. The simple pleasure of food has become complicated, fraught with consequences. You miss the freedom of eating without thinking about it, of enjoying food without calculating cost, of your body just accepting and processing whatever you gave it. You miss being brave. You miss taking risks. You miss saying yes to things even when they scared you. You miss trying new things. You miss the confidence that even if something went wrong, you'd figure it out. You'd recover. You'd be okay. When you were younger, you took chances. You moved to new cities. You changed jobs. You started relationships. You ended relationships. You made big decisions without overthinking them to death. You trusted yourself to handle whatever came. Now you're cautious, careful, risk-averse. You've learned that things can go very wrong, that recovery is harder, that starting over is exhausting, that your body can't handle what it used to, that your resources are limited, that you don't have time to rebuild if everything falls apart. So you play it safe. You stick with what you know. You avoid situations that might go badly. You protect yourself. This is wise, probably, but you miss the bravery, the willingness to leap, the faith that you'd land on your feet. You miss singing, really singing, without self-consciousness. When you were younger, you sang in the car, sang while you cooked, sang while you cleaned, sang to your children, sang at church maybe, sang along with music. Your voice worked. You didn't think about it. You just sang because it felt good, because music wanted to come out, because singing was a natural expression of being alive. Now your voice is different, weaker, less reliable. You can't hit the notes you used to, can't sustain them. Your voice cracks or wavers, and you're embarrassed, self-conscious. So you don't sing much anymore. Maybe you hum. Maybe you sing very quietly where no one can hear. But you miss singing freely. Miss the physical pleasure of making music with your voice. Miss that particular kind of joy. You miss having a best friend, the kind you had when you were younger, the person you told everything, who knew everything about you, who you talked to every day, who you couldn't imagine life without. Those friendships had an intensity that's hard to replicate in adulthood, a closeness that came from having so much time and so much shared experience and so few other responsibilities competing for your attention. Your current friendships are different. Good, but different. You have people you care about, people you see regularly, maybe, but it's not the same as those early friendships. There's not the same intensity, the same frequency of contact, the same feeling that this person is essential to your daily existence. Life is busier, more complicated. Relationships are more spread out, more scheduled, less spontaneous, less central. And you miss having that one person who was your person, who knew you completely, who was woven into every aspect of your life. You miss how holidays used to feel, the magic of them, the excitement, the specialness. When you were a child, holidays were extraordinary. They disrupted normal life. They brought special food and special activities and special time with family. Everything felt heightened, important, magical. And as a parent, you tried to create that magic for your children. You worked hard to make holidays special, to build traditions, to make memories. And there was magic in that too. Different magic, but real. Now holidays feel hollow, empty. You go through the motions. You do the things you're supposed to do. But the magic is gone. The excitement is gone. Holidays are just days, marked on the calendar, acknowledged, but not felt the way they used to be felt. And you miss that feeling, that sense that today is different, that today matters, that today is worth celebrating with your whole heart. You miss your pets, the ones who are gone now. Each one was a companion through a particular era of your life. Each one loved you unconditionally, was happy to see you every single time you came home, didn't care how you looked or what you accomplished or what kind of day you had, just loved you for existing, for being the person who fed them and pet them and talked to them. You remember each one distinctly, their personalities, their quirks, the games they liked, the spots they preferred to sleep, the way they greeted you, the comfort they provided during hard times. They were there, present, constant, loving. And when they died, you lost witnesses to your life, lost companions who knew you in a particular way, lost love that asked nothing of you except your presence. You may have another pet now. You may love them dearly, but they're not the ones you lost. Those specific animals are gone. Those specific relationships ended, and you carry grief for them even while loving the new one. Because each relationship is unique. Each loss is its own loss. They don't replace each other. They just accumulate, layer upon layer of love and loss. You miss believing things would get easier. When you were struggling through your 30s or 40s, you thought once you got past this phase, things would settle, would simplify. You'd figure it all out and then life would be easier. You were working toward easier, toward a time when you'd have it together, when you'd know what you were doing, when the hard parts would be over. But it didn't get easier. It just got different. Different problems, different challenges, different kinds of hard. And now you understand that it never gets easier. You just get older while dealing with the hard things. The struggling doesn't end. The uncertainty doesn't end. The difficulties don't end. They just change shape. And you miss that hope you used to have. That belief that eventually you'd arrive at easy, at settled, at figured out. Now you know you never arrive. You just keep going. You're lying in the dark, and these missing things move through you like waves, rising and falling, pulling you under and releasing you. Each memory both painful and precious, each loss both real and somehow okay. Because this is what it means to have lived, to have accumulated enough years that there are things to miss, people to miss, versions of yourself to miss. If you had nothing to miss, it would mean you had nothing to lose. And having things to lose means you had things worth having. You miss, and the missing is proof that you loved, that you cared, that you were present enough in your life to form attachments, to create memories, to build a history worth grieving when pieces of it disappear. The missing hurts, but it also honors what was. It says, this mattered, this was real, this was important enough to carry with me, to remember, to feel the absence of. You let yourself feel it all tonight, all the nostalgia, all the longing for what was, all the grief for what's gone. You don't push it away. Don't tell yourself to focus on the positive. Don't try to feel grateful when what you actually feel is sad. You just let it be. Let yourself miss what you miss. Let yourself mourn what's lost. Let yourself wish, just for tonight, that some of it could come back. Because tomorrow, you'll wake up and be practical again. Realistic, accepting. You'll focus on what you have rather than what you had. You'll appreciate the present rather than longing for the past. You'll be wise and mature and at peace with the passage of time. But tonight, in this darkness, you don't have to be any of those things. You can just miss. Freely, fully, without judgment or correction. The missing settles around you now, like the blankets, heavy but not crushing, present but not overwhelming. You breathe into it. You let it be part of this moment, this night, this small space of time where you're honest with yourself about everything you've lost on the way to where you are now. And slowly, beneath the missing, you find something else, something quieter, but more solid. Gratitude. not the forced kind, not the kind you tell yourself you should feel, but real gratitude for having had all those things to miss, for having lived a life full enough that its absence leaves holes, for having loved enough people that losing them still hurts, for having been young once, for having had energy and passion and dreams and stupid confidence, for having made mistakes you learned from, for having had all those ordinary days that seemed boring at the time but now glow in memory like they were always precious. You're here. You made it. Through everything you miss, through everything you lost, through every transition and ending and heartbreak, you survived it all. And survival isn't nothing. It's everything. It's the whole story. You're still here, still breathing, still capable of feeling, still capable of remembering, still capable of missing, which means you're still capable of loving, still connected to the life you've lived, still honoring it by caring that pieces of it are gone. Your body is settling now. The tension is releasing. The waves of nostalgia are slowing. The missing is still present, but it's gentler, softer, more like a lullaby than a storm. You can rest with this. You can let yourself drift while holding all these memories, all these losses, all these precious, painful pieces of a long life fully lived. You adjust slightly, finding the perfect position. Your body knows how to do this, how to settle into sleep, how to release the day, how to let go of thought and slip into dreams. You've done this thousands of times, tens of thousands of times. This is familiar, practiced, automatic. Your body knows the way. The night holds you. The darkness holds you. The memories hold you. All the people you've been, all the people you've loved, all the moments you've lived, they're all here with you, in this bed, under these covers, in this quiet hour when the world grows still and the truth rises gently to the surface. You are enough. You've always been enough. Everything you miss was real. Everything you lost mattered. Everything you mourn deserves your grief, and everything you've survived deserves your respect. You've lived fully, imperfectly, bravely. You've loved and lost and continued. You've built a life, raised people maybe, created things, survived things. You've been here, present, trying, doing your best. And your best was enough. Let sleep come now. Let the missing settle into dreams. Let the nostalgia transform into peaceful rest. Let everything you've carried tonight become lighter as you drift away. Let the past be past while still honoring it. Let the present be enough while still acknowledging what's gone. Let yourself be exactly who and where you are. Right now, in this moment, in this bed, in this life, you are loved. You have been loved. You have loved. This is not nothing. This is everything. The missing proves it. The nostalgia honors it. The memories preserve it. You are the keeper of your own history, the witness to your own life. And tonight, in this gentle darkness, you've witnessed it all. Every beautiful, painful, ordinary, extraordinary piece of it. Rest now. You've done enough remembering for tonight. You've felt enough. You've honored enough. Now it's time to let go, to release, to allow sleep to carry you somewhere else, somewhere beyond memory, beyond nostalgia, beyond missing, somewhere peaceful, somewhere safe, somewhere you can rest from the weight of all you've lived and all you've lost. The fires die down, the stories settle, and the world grows still. Let your thoughts drift away like embers on the wind. Good night. You've journeyed far through time tonight. Now it's time to journey into dreams. Close your eyes, breathe, and let sleep find you.